Oh no, everybody hide! Britain stepped out of our only savior, the almighty, ever-correct European Union. We have to all hide and obey, or else we'll lose our corporate jobs. Banks will take all of our money. Nobody will protect us from economic warfare in the all-rich Middle East. Everybody hide and obey. Oh wait, I hear something.
We now expect the United Kingdom government to give effect to this decision of the British people as soon as possible, however painful that process may be.
No! 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 No!
This is what happens when you ask the people about the European Union for the first time in forever. But the last time people have been asked their opinions about EU was when they were voting whether to enter it or not. And since they had zero power and influence on the policies and direction not only of the complex as a whole, but their own sovereign states. For example, if some states rejected the quotas on receiving immigrants, they were threatened by economic sanctions from Germany. The way the EU budget works is that every country sends some money into the budget while receiving some benefits in return. For smaller states, that was usually net receiving in a form of funds. The bigger states, on the other hand, have been allowed to outsource their manufacturing and production into poorer states with much lower minimum wages, while large companies access the expanded European markets at no extra cost. But most of these deals were brokered behind the closed doors, and the general public of Europe had often no say. Media usually acted to just announce what was going on instead of critically watch over their leadership. If somebody pointed out the troubles, they were immediately flagged as Eurosceptic, and the stay in the EU has been such a status quo that it was taken for granted and banned from questioning, like it's the only option now and forever. So that's a big picture of how the EU works in reality, when you take out all that mess that makes it vague for people to follow on daily basis. This system allows the EU to use money as a political leverage. If some states are objecting EU policies, they would lose some of their Euro funds or other benefits that the EU made them dependent on.
Bernard Pignon, a French farmer, said thousands of his colleagues in Germany and France were quitting the industry each year. We, the small farmers, get 20% of EU money. 80% goes to big agricultural groups, he said. The majority of the farmers get 2,000 to 15,000 euros. So the money should really go to the small and medium-sized farms.
This leverage is very powerful, because the deals in the EU are made so that no state could afford to hold a position for too long. For example, much of the agriculture in Eastern Europe have been destroyed by rich companies from the West that could afford to sell the same products at much lower price. The revenues from these rich companies are also dependent on the market in the East. If farmers from Eastern Europe try to outperform their competition, the EU posts quotas on their production with high penalties on non-compliance. You know, like in the good old days of socialism in the Eastern Bloc. That's why the EU legislation generally passes so smoothly, with no large objections. The EU doesn't want you to go your own way. I think that's why they have been sending a lot of money for political developments of certain regions, like Scotland, Catalonia in Spain, or Brittany in France. All these regions have developed very well, thanks to the grants and beneficial deals from the EU, but have also grown strong nationalist sentiment that has already resulted in the independence referendums in both Scotland and Catalonia. And since all of these countries are largely Eurosceptical, the EU has been hoping that their central governments would not root for stepping out, because that might mean the breakup of those regions from their mother countries. And since David Cameron doesn't give a damn about this electorate, he thought that by playing a populist politician, he would gain more popularity for the Tories, while keeping the Union together. So maybe that's why the EU is so calm.
We will stand strong and uphold the European Union's core values of promoting peace and the well-being of its peoples. The union of 27 member states will continue.
Because they think there will be no domino effect, since the Britain will probably lose both Scotland and Northern Ireland and will change its name to This United Kingdom not so great anymore. And they probably think that this will be a deterrent to the leadership of other Eurosceptical countries. The EU is just a huge joke to the rest of the world. Instead of fixing the democratic deficit of the EU, high unemployment rates and long and deep recession, they have tried to ban curved cucumbers and bananas, light bulbs, and claims that water is good to prevent dehydration, and they tried to make pet horse owners to officially declare they would not eat their horses. And now they think that having directly elected president would solve the problem.
Noi proponiamo che per le prossime elezioni europee si preveda l'elezione diretta del Presidente della Commissione europea, il leader dell'Unione Europea, il sindaco d'Europa. Questo significa creare un vero spazio politico europeo.
Let's pause here for a second. What? How am I supposed to know these people? How about asking us first whether we want a president or not in the first place? Can you imagine that mess? Who will decide what candidates would be running campaigns? Is it for every nation state? Polish against German against Dutch, Swedish, Czech, French, Lithuanians, Slovenians? What the hell? The point is that nothing catastrophically radical happens here for Britain. They can still enjoy the free trade within Europe by joining the European Free Trade Association. That has nothing to do with the EU, but it's all the benefits they want with the free movement. And the same goes for any other state that might follow the steps of Britain. You don't have to believe that the EU is the only option, because it's not. In EFTA, you can have a fair trade with equal conditions and no bullshit regulations and quotas on the market created by the people who look like...
You have the charisma of a damp rag and the appearance of a low-grade bank clerk. And the question that I want to ask, that we're all going to ask is, who are you? I'd never heard of you. Nobody in Europe had ever heard of you.
You are terminated.
Overall, I really view Brexit as a rare example of successful popular expression. The entire political, economic and media establishment has been hammering people over voting against leaving. This victory isn't so great after all. It's just nice to see people are still able to come out against the establishment. So those are my opinions about Brexit and the European Union. Please feel free to give me your feedback, whether you agree or not, and I'm planning to make content like this every week. Thanks for watching and see you next time.